So without further ado, I'm going to introduce the first speakers, who are Matt and Jess Turtle, who are founders of the Museum of the Homelessness.
Hello everyone. I feel quite heavy and inside really after watching that film. It feels difficult to know where to start. I just want to thank you all for being here today. I'm Matt Turtle. I'm one of the co-founders of Museum of Homelessness.
I'm Jess, the other co-founder. We've also got Becky and Miranda from Museum of Homelessness crew here.
I just want to acknowledge that film. It was really powerful. Thank you for showing it at the start of the session, and thank you for making it, because the thing that Museum of Homelessness is known for, some of you might be thinking, what is that? We've been around for a while now, but we're an organisation that is set up and run by people with lived experience. We've been looking around for a building for a long time, and next year we're actually getting one, so do come. But one of the main things we're known for is the work we do around homelessness and dying. And some of the statistics that you saw on that film are published by us every year. So we do a national project where we remember and honour those who died around the UK. So that's a little bit about us. And we put this information out there, and we do a lot of work, and we talk to a lot of people. But that information wouldn't be anything without people taking it forward. And that's what's happened in this city. That's what's happened in Brighton. We wouldn't actually know anything about what happened in Brighton if it wasn't for people here, people like Daniel, who pushed the council. It's for that reason that we're seeing changes like the closure of Kendall Court, for example, and other changes like the Health Watch review, which I do hope happens soon. So I just want to, we put this out there, but nothing happens on the ground unless people take it forward. So it's a thank you from us to you for doing that. So that's a bit about us and what we do.
It feels, just as I was watching that film, we've got 10 minutes, but it feels important maybe to use a minute of that just to have a minute to remember Paige and all the other people that have died. On our memorial, we remember 3,834 people since 2017. So if people felt like that was a thing that would be useful, it felt like there was a lot of emotion from that film. I was feeling it, so I can do the timing, but if we just take a minute of remembrance. Thank you. So what we were going to say today was, and it's shown so well in that film, is that our findings do show that we're in an emergency, and it's more than an emergency around poverty and inequality. It's an emergency, and it's a crisis of neglect, of loneliness, of people being left, in horrible accommodation. When what we need now more than ever is connection, compassion and creativity. And by creativity, I don't just mean the arts, that's really important, but finding creative ways around solving problems for people. And what we see so often instead is a system that's inflexible, and that is neglecting people and not finding those solutions, so that we are seeing these these horrible statistics. We've documented an 80% increase in deaths in the last 2 years. So what we need is that connection, that compassion, that creativity. And we also need policy solutions to be made by people who are homeless, people who have been homeless, people who are working on the front line, organising. So that's why we're really pleased to be here today, because that's this room. And I think that's really precious and is to be nurtured and celebrated.
You want to talk about Birmingham?
Oh yeah, I was going to give an example. So like one example from last week, I went to Birmingham. It's the exempt accommodation capital of the UK. Like up there, you've got it everywhere, but there's rogue landlords who are just making money off people's misery, and you know, I would hold them accountable for a lot of these deaths. So you've got the commissioner of this event, you've got people with experience of homelessness, and then people can come and ask questions. And this security guard, who's basically his team's responsible for police in the town centre, you know, he says, oh, I see people go indoors and then I see them come back out again, and I don't blame them because where they're being put is so shit. Like, you wouldn't put a dog in there. Why can't you have a solution like, before you place people there, maybe inspect the property? And the commissioner didn't have an answer for that, but to me that seems like a really simple solution, right? From someone who's seeing the problem and talking to people who are going through it. So I think we need more of that feeding into policy, and we are seeing that in this city, so that's really good.
Yeah, I mean, there are things we can share with you, you know, 3 things that we are trying to reach for ourselves, which is nice to just have the opportunity to talk to you about, because we think the things that are going to be essential in the coming months as we head into winter. And the first thing is that we're seeing people pushing back, right? And all of us coming together today is an example of that. And I mentioned things like Kendall Court and the Health Watch inquiry, but the Bill of Rights in and of itself, like no other city has that. No other city has the Bill of Rights. Even if there's no funding behind it, it's a massive statement, and other cities might follow, and that might lead to more change in the future. And I think it's so important because even recently I saw that it was under threat with people talking about the Bill of Rights being responsible for homelessness in the city, rough sleeping in the city, tents, for example. And that was questioned, and that was really good because enforcement doesn't work.
Yeah, and so we're just with you, like keep fighting is basically the message there. And also is that supporting grassroots, lived experience-led projects is really important. Like so often we're made to be not the experts and not professional and all of that, but actually we can bring in that creativity that I was talking about earlier, you know, and we can have that compassion and we can connect people. And so I think it's really important to look after each other and to advocate for lived experience, leadership and grassroots projects wherever we can, because we will get excluded, you know, in funding and in policy quite often. So there's so much activity down here in Brighton with the Coalition, Sussex Homeless Support, so that is also something to be celebrated and looked after.
I think one thing before we start to wrap up is to say that I think the final thing is you know, to kind of come together and look after each other. And we've got our own coalition, actually. The museums has a coalition around the Dying Homeless Project, which anyone here can join, be a part of. It's a loose affiliation of people. You don't have to be a professional or whatever. Just come and be part of it because it's a place for people to talk. We also run death cafes as well, memorial spaces to remember people who have died. And it's just a little practical thing that can we do. If we're not all talking and working together, change can't happen. So that's our 3 things really. Jess, do you want to kind of summarise?
Yeah, so it was like basically keep fighting, we're right there with you, and also like our family, the Outside Project, coming down and going to be partnering with groups in Brighton to make brilliant stuff happen this winter, so we're really excited for that. You know, keep on supporting each other, making that time and space for each other as well, and space to grieve also. So Arch, did you mention the memorial?
I did mention the memorial, I should have done.
So they often do a memorial. I think it didn't happen because of COVID, but Matt went to one of them and it was really moving space. So it's space to grieve, but also space to hold each other because this stuff's really, really hard. So making sure that you and we create space for that as we go forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you, David, everyone.